Have you ever considered how Isambard Kingdom Brunel built such a revolutionary and unique bridge over the River Tamar at Saltash? For hundreds of years, crossing the river was never an easy trip. But with the Industrial Revolution gaining pace, more advanced solutions were becoming possible. Wrought iron was now a proven material, and the use of modern steam engines made more ambitious technology projects possible. Steam-powered ferries began to replace the much slower and smaller capacity boats. During the early stages of the bridge's design, the Admiralty, the people in charge of the Royal Navy, set some strict design challenges for Brunel. The tall-masted vessels of the Royal Navy required access above the proposed position of the Saltash railway bridge, so the Admiralty made the demand that the bridge had to be at least 100 feet above high water and have only a single pier in the river to allow shipping to pass unheeded. The direction of the railway and the softness of the Devon bank meant a traditional suspension bridge was not possible. Brunel's radical design solved the issue by using a flexible hollow tube, which, under load, would push the towers out. To counteract this movement, chains pulling the towers in were added to the tube at each end. The next challenge was to build a 30-foot diameter central pier in tidal water and silt and sink it to a depth of 90 feet. Brunel designed a wrought iron cylinder, also known as a caisson, to cut through the silt and settle on the rock, forming a seal on the riverbed. Water was pumped out so the workmen could remove the silt and level the rock. A leak in the cylinder presented Brunel with a problem. He overcame this by capping the cylinder and pumping in compressed air. This solution allowed up to 40 men at a time to access the cylinder and create the foundations and build the granite central pier until it was 12 feet above the high water mark. After launching the cylinder, work began on constructing the Cornish span on floating pontoons in specially dug quays on the Devon shore. Once completed, the span was floated into the river. Brunel needed to be seen when manoeuvring the span, so built a platform and used a system of coloured flags. The truss moved into position above the land pier on the Saltash bank and the central pier. Using the tide and filling the pontoons with water, the truss was lowered onto one large and two smaller jacks at each end to lift the 1,060-ton span to 100 feet. Masonry on the Saltash pier was added after every lift of 3 feet. When 6 foot of masonry was completed, 2 octagonal cast iron blocks were added to the central pier. This continued for around 10 months, when the span finally reached the required height. Once the Cornish span had been floated, work commenced on the Devon span on the shore. On Monday the 2nd of May 1859, His Royal Highness Prince Albert officially opened the bridge to a large fanfare. Prince Albert walked across the bridge before departing for his return to Windsor. This bridge was extremely important to opening up Cornwall to the rest of the country. Changes to business and people's day-to-day lives were huge. Prior to opening, the journey time for a mail coach via Plymouth was around 9 days, which was also sometimes dangerous. Rail travel reduced that to around 9 hours. Fresh food and flowers from Cornwall could reach the capital on the day they were picked. It also meant that Cornish people who read were able to get a newspaper the day after the event happened. The bridge is over 160 years old and still transporting people to and from the rest of the country by train. With around 78 trains per day, it still provides a vital link between Cornwall and beyond.